In this video, we're going to look at using Docker to set up an IMathAS test environment. So Docker has the advantage of being self-contained, very easy to set up. The only downside is that on Windows, it requires the latest version of Windows that came out in May 2020. So if your computer does not support that, you're not going to be able to use this. So step one is going to be to go to docker.com and download the Docker desktop, which I've already done, and go through the installation process and all that. Step two is going to go to GitHub and go to drlitman IMathAS Docker repo. And we just need a copy of the code here. We don't need to fork it or clone it. So we can just download a zip file. And then once we have the download, we can extract it and grab the contents. And I'm just going to dump them in the root directory here. And I'm going to rename it to just IMathAS Docker. Okay. Now in the GitHub repo, if you go into the Docker directory, the README file here sort of walks through the steps. So step one is to make sure you already have a copy of the IMathAS software itself. And I already have a copy cloned off of GitHub into my main directory here. Step two is install Docker, and then step three you'll see here is to edit the Docker YAML to edit the right path. So inside the IMathAS Docker folder here, I am going to open up my editor on this file, and down here under volumes, you'll see there's a path directory here, and I'm going to edit this to point to my directory. So that's /C, so the C colon, the C drive in the IMathAS directory. Okay, so there we are, and I'm going to save that file and close that. So step three is next step is in the root of the project, run docker compose up. Now, unfortunately, this has to be done on the command line, so we're going to go to the command prompt here, old school style, and change directory into the IMathAS Docker directory. And in here, we're going to run docker compose up. The first time you run this, it's going to probably take a little while. I've run it before, so it's going to be a little faster. And so this is going to start this is going to start a web server, this is going to start a database server, and it's going to handle PHP as well. And so now if I go into my Docker dashboard, we are going to see, hopefully, where is it? There it is. Yep, there we see Docker, IMathAS Docker is running. So we've got a database server and we've got a web server up and running. So next step is in the web browser, we go to localhost IMathAS, and I would leave off the S here and just do a regular HTTP. So I'm just going to go to localhost/install.php, and now we're going to do the installation process. So we're going to put in these values that are here. So the database server is just DB. The database name is IMathAS.db. This is IMathAS, that's IMathAS. And these are values that were hard-coded into the Docker configuration. Now the rest of this you can either update or not. They're all reasonable standards. And then we'll hit create configuration. You'll probably see some warnings. Feel free to just ignore them. They're just because we're running this on Windows. And then once that's done, we'll continue to creating our database tables. And at this point, couple more errors, but at this point we're going to need to create our initial user. So this is an actual login for IMathAS that has admin privileges. So you can create your own username or password or just leave it as root and then set up the database. And so this is going to create all the tables and everything necessary to make the system run. And once that's done, we can go to the login page, and at this point we can log in with whatever that username and password was that we created. And there we go. Now we have ourselves we're logged in, and we can go do whatever we want to with IMathAS. Now the cool thing about this is it is using the code from that IMathAS directory you had. So if you create a new branch and are working on a new feature, whatever changes you make to the code there will be reflected in what you see when you're running it through Docker. So very handy. One comment is if you restart your computer or something, you probably will not have to go to the command prompt and run Docker Compose up again. You'll probably just be able to open the Docker panel and hit start on the container, and it will probably still be there and will just start up, most likely. And there we go. There is the idea of how to set up a test environment for IMathAS using Docker.